My name's Kirstin Ricketts. My husband's name is Pat, and we together have 4 kids. So Henry, who is 9, Graham, who's 8, Samantha is 6, and Teddy is 4. I think my biggest struggle with the coronavirus or the quarantine just was that I had to get less selfish with my time really fast. So with my oldest being 9 and my youngest being 4, I was finally going to have 2 hours in the mornings where I had all the kids in school. And so I had treasured that time. And so thought about just sitting in my kitchen in the quiet. And rather than that, I found myself in a zebra pop-up tent teaching kids to read and do long division. And so I just had to surrender that time that I was holding in my hands pretty tightly. And so what that looked like is just saying, so God, all of this is yours. And in giving him that time back, I found him to be so generous in what he returned. And so my kids got really into fort making, and I could walk around my yard in the quiet. Or there were a couple of conferences that I could tune into while they would all be playing together outside when the weather was nice. It snowed a bunch of times, which gave them just a lot of outdoor time together and gave me that peace. And so because I could rest in his hands, I feel like he gave me what I was wanting. It just looked a little bit differently. So faith has really changed everything that we experience as far as this quarantine goes. And so the verse that it reminds me of is, where does our help come from? Our hope comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And that looks very what that looks like to me is sitting the kids down at the table and saying, trusting them with what actually is happening. So this is what happened at our house. Guys, there is a virus and people are going to get sick and some people are going to die and we might get sick. But what are we scared? Do we need to be scared of that? And no, we don't. We don't need to be scared because we know how this story ends. Also on the flip side, guys, people that don't know Jesus, do they need to be scared? You know what? They have something to fear. They have something to fear. And so we are going to be generous to them. We are going to be kind. We are going to be anything that we can be to help them fill the gap and help them show where our help comes from, because we have a strong foundation. When the kids watch the news, I love that this quarantine time happened while my kids are in my home, because when we go through hard times, it gives us the ability to practice, and we get to practice while they're here. And so watching the news and the kids saying, man, it looks like they don't know what to do. You know what? You're right. They don't know what to do, but God knows. God knows where the virus started. He knows how this is going to all end, and we're going to trust him. So my general encouragement would just be, I remember a lot more of what my mom did than what she said. And so when I look at a situation and I don't know what to do, sometimes I just think, I wonder what I would tell Samantha to do, or I wonder what I would want her to see. And then I do that. God's generous in the fact that we've got a long time that these kids are going to be in our homes. And so if you haven't been doing the things you wish you would have done, or if you wish you would have done something differently, then change now. We always have the opportunity to begin again. I think about the stories that I would read to my 9-year-old, the Bible stories we would read, and over and over and over again. And you don't know if they're listening, and you don't know what they pick up and what they don't. But what I found is, in times like this, that we can look and say, guys, we can trust our God. Look at Abraham. He went to go make a sacrifice, and he had no sacrifice but his son, and God provided for him. So we're going to trust God just like Abraham did. And because of those little stories when they were little kids, we can track the same way. Whether you've been doing that or whether you haven't, we always have the time that we can start those new habits and pour in those things. And God's generous in giving us that time. So one thing you may look at is, you may look at this time and say, I don't have that solid foundation, or I don't know what to believe, or I don't know if I trust God more than I trust myself. And so one thing that we can always do is, if you feel that way, man, plead with God to create belief in you. Plead with God to allow you to experience what you need to experience to trust him. Our kids are watching our lives, and this is our opportunity to show them what that would look like. But we can't minister from an empty cup. And so, man, plead with God that he would pour in all of the things that he would want you to overflow on your kids. The way that I feel like God has refined me during this time is just to be in the unknown and the uncertainty is just to be able to consider what would faithfulness look like today. And so we don't know what 2 weeks from now looks like. It sure looks different than I thought it would have a couple of months ago. And so just in those times, just being able to say, okay, God, so what does today look like? What do you want from me today? What does faithfulness look like? And then just do that. I think that's maybe what following God looks like, is just saying yes over and over and over, and looking for that direction. Maybe not months or even years from now, but maybe now, and then maybe in a few hours, and then in a couple of days. So just continuing to follow over and over, and what faithfulness looks like today is what I feel like He's been teaching me.